And now, more Pro Wrestling Weekly with your host, Fearon Derry.
This guy continues to amaze me.
You're welcome!
Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Fearon Derry alongside Nick Cataldi, Lucas the Intern. We're talking all kinds of SummerSlam stuff, including favorite SummerSlam moments, and I don't know what just happened there.
Oh, sorry, it's my Tourette's.
Oh.
Yeah, I have Tourette's, ladies and gentlemen. Weird way to...
yeah, I know. Interesting way to throw it out there. I thought it was just the... maybe it was just the chair. That's what I was thinking it was. All right. Actually, yeah, it is the chair. Swivel, it makes a squeak.
Yeah, let's go with the chair. Let's go with the chair.
We'll go with the chair, absolutely. All right, let's... yes, favorite SummerSlam moments. We'll get into... I'll throw one of them out there. One that jumped out at me, actually, I played it in the clip last week from the very first SummerSlam back in 1988, excuse me. Elizabeth as the secret weapon in the Mega Powers versus the Mega Bucks, and the infamous quote from superstar brother Billy Graham, because I think he said brother about 39,000 times during that pay-per-view as the color commentator. But she took off her skirt, Gorilla. Oh, that was a memorable moment for a number of reasons, although I think at the time I would have been a little too young to appreciate it live, but have since appreciated it looking back historically. We'll just leave it at that. One of my least favorite SummerSlam moments, though, oh, man. From 1994, The Undertaker versus The Underfaker. That's right. Brian Lee dressed as The Undertaker. You had the two Undertakers to signify the return after a few months of The Undertaker, going back to the Royal Rumble of 94 in January.
I remember when there was more than two executioners.
More than two executioners. Yeah. That's going a little back.
Yes,
yeah.
It is. One of them got hurt, and Lou Albano kicked him under the ring and brought another one down and denied it later. I didn't do that.
Of course.
Yeah. I didn't know about this two Undertaker thing. I missed that, I guess.
Yeah, that was in '94. They actually had leading up to it. They had a bunch of vignettes where there were Undertaker sightings throughout the world, and they even hired Leslie Nielsen of
sightings around the world.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, it just sounded funny.
That's what they were doing at the time. They got Leslie Nielsen of the Naked Gun, Police Squad fame,
I'm serious. To be on Shirley.
Yeah, to actually investigate the case, and they got his partner from the Police Squad, whose name's eluding me.
George Kennedy?
Yeah, George Kennedy, thank you. They got George Kennedy along with it as well.
I must have been working a lot. I know my kids watched it then.
All of my favorite Leslie Nielsen moments just reeled back in my head. You guys just made my day.
Good.
I'm glad I'm able to do that. All that coming from one of the worst SummerSlam moments, at least in my memory. And we're also talking Vince McMahon moments because today is Vince McMahon's birthday. Who would have thought that? But a little more of that in the next segment today in wrestling history. We'll talk that up a little bit coming up. Into some news and notes. Oh man, WWE partnering with the Got Milk people. Yeah, WWE executives Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, keep it clean, folks, announced a new partnership with Milk Pep, the team responsible for the Got Milk campaign. I'm sure you've seen those, billboards, magazines, all that stuff.
Maybe they should have Sable be the spokesperson. I'm sorry. I'm
going to have you thrown out of here in a minute.
Is she still around? She's not with him.
No, she's married to Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, I know that. I did
really?
know that.
God.
And that's as far as I'm taking that.
I kept it clean.
And so am I. The partnership, they're calling it Protein Fight Club. The campaign centered around the protein in milk and will use Milk Wins as the social media hashtag. So there you go. It's like quite a few people. I know drinking your milk was a big thing with Kurt Angle back in the day, and even going back to the Owen Hart Blue Blazer character where he said he would take his vitamins, say his prayers, and drink his milk. Woo! I know. Owen was so good at that stuff.
I love milk.
Yes, Milk is definitely a lot of fun. In other news, an X Division format change. Hulk Hogan announcing via Twitter that the X Division will return to being singles matches rather than being three-way matches. And they started that this past Thursday on Impact. And, as Manic took on Sanjay Dutt. So no more of the triple threat. It seemed like a good idea, but they didn't really develop any of the characters in the X Division, so there's really nobody you could get behind. And I think now with one-on-one competition, they're running into the same problem.
Well, I have a question, though. Why did they make Manic change his name to Suicide? Wasn't that like a match stipulation that happened? I've changed Suicide to Manic. I apologize.
Yeah, no, I knew what you meant. It didn't make sense. Not that it's the first. Not that it's the first of things that TNA has done that hasn't necessarily made sense. I don't know. There's a lot of things that go on that don't necessarily make sense. Oh, man. Going to the Facebook feedback, Dan, since he got cut off, of course, he's chiming in right after the fact. He said, nowadays, Angle drinking a lot more than milk. Harsh. Oh, yes. If I had a rim shot.
That is slanderous, but true.
That is worthy of Jeff Ross right there, sir. Good day to you.
Jeff Ross. Oh, yeah, the
it's
comedian.
Never too soon.
Yeah, I know.
Never too soon.
No, it certainly isn't. But he's getting help now, so that's a good thing. He being Angle. I don't know if Jeffrey Ross is getting help, but maybe he should. Who knows? All right, let's get back to the phones before I get into more trouble here. Welcome to Pro Wrestling Weekly.
I'm up?
Yep.
How you doing, Fearon? It's Walt.
Walt, what's going on?
Well, you brought up the good talk about Vince McMahon, and I go back to a couple memories, and Lucas will get a spin out of this one. In '83, Jimmy Snuka was matched up against Ray the Crippler Stevens, and Vince McMahon worked an angle that it happened at Allentown, where Jimmy Snuka was getting ready to turn into one of the good guys. Mm-hmm. And they worked a match where Ray Stevens turned on Jimmy to beat him up, along with Lou Albano and Freddie Blassie. And that's a great moment because as a kid or younger guy, I was looking at that, and it was '83, and it was like, wow, Jimmy Snuka coming on as a really good-sided wrestler. And I had saw him in some matches against Bob Backlund, and they were really, really good scientific live. I saw them live, and they were great, great matches. And that was a historical moment, just to see that happen. And Vince McMahon was on the TV side back then.
Yeah, he was the commentator from '71, well, pretty much all the way up till '97 in the creation of the Mr. McMahon character. Mm-hmm. So a lot of time for that.
And he worked well with Pat Patterson, then one of the first Intercontinental Champions for World Wrestling Federation, we called it then. And it was a great, great time. I love Vince on the TV side. That was one of the most intriguing segments every week. And all that was taped. That was not live. It was done live, but taped and aired on a local UHF channel. Lucas, if he would have been alive then, he would have really, really, I think, got a better perspective of world wrestling then. Or wrestling, WWE as we call it now.
Yeah, well, Vince McMahon, I know he got a lot of flack for his commentary over the years for the simple "what a maneuver" and the how many times did he go 1, 2, 3? He got no, he didn't.
Well, yeah, he was very good at building drama, building dramatics, and that's why you see the WWE enterprises created today from a lot of those roots and out of those days, and they had to bring it up just to bring up the corporate level, to get into business, get into the elements of everything. And it was a simple time. And pro wrestling was a very simple time then. And you didn't know a lot between matches. You didn't know a lot of the stops. Now you do, because internet has filled it in. Pro Wrestling Almanac, the Wrestling Almanac fills that in, and you understand what they go through on the road. And although it was that left a lot to the imagination then. And today you got to have a lot of imagination too to make the characters work, to make them run, and quicker. and quicker.
All right, Lucas, did you want to chime in there?
Well,
you're like chomping at the bit. I can see here.
There's a little off topic, but you mentioned Bob Backlund. I'm actually glad you brought him up because I have a story.
All right, Lucas, how many time champion is Bob Backlund officially? Officially under my eyes. How many times?
You get him to, what kind of officially under my eyes? What's that about? I know where you're going with this, and you're trying to throw the trick question out there. But
Steve Lucas, I want to see his knowledge. I want to see if he can guess this. How many times?
I don't know that much about Bob Backlund, but I'm going to go 3.
You're right. 3-time champion. He technically lost the belt in Japan on a WWE tour, and 6 days later had to build it and win it back before he came home to the States. That's his real.
Yeah, WWE doesn't recognize that changeover in Japan, so they show him as being a non-stop champion from 78 all the way up till 83 when he lost it to the Iron Sheik when Arnold Skaaland threw in the towel.
Okay, he also did in New York City lose the belt with a referee actually awarding Greg the Hammer Valentine the championship in the New York City boundary, zip code boundary.
I remember seeing that on WWE Classics.
Mm-hmm. And he had to win that back the next individual month from Greg the Hammer. But outside that New York zip code, they recognize Backlund still as the champion.
Yeah.
I kind of look at that one too.
Interesting. All right, we're coming up against it real quick here. Thanks so much for the call, Walt.
Thanks, Ron.
Greatly appreciate it.
Take care.
Thanks so much for the call.
Yep, bye-bye.
Yes, Walt, a fountain of information and a fountain of a few other things as well.
I was blindly guessing, actually, on that one.
Yeah, well played. Hey, sometimes you throw a guess out there when you're not sure, and sometimes these things happen. Let's get one more before we take care of some business here. Let's get Steve from Bristol, who's been hanging on. Steve, welcome to Pro Wrestling Weekly.
How you guys doing?
Whoa, not too bad.
All right, a couple quick questions. You said that they're going to do the Chris Benoit story. Do they have somebody lined up to play him yet or not?
Not to my knowledge. Not a whole lot. I know they've worked on a director, but I'm not too sure off the top of my head if they've named somebody to play Chris Benoit.
Well, the thing, with these gay wrestlers and all this stuff, the Vince McMahon, for the first 15 WrestleManias, this gay guy was Pat Patterson. No one ever said a word.
Well, yeah, that didn't really come out, no pun intended, until Pat Patterson was one of Vince's stooges. And okay. Jim Ross, I remember, and even though I didn't quite understand it for some reason it stuck with me. Jim Ross would throw a couple of verbal jabs at various either Raws or pay-per-views that it was one of those things where I heard it and it didn't 100% make sense, but I knew something wasn't right. Like he would throw out a line once Patterson and Briscoe would make their way to ringside, something like he's single fellas, or what was the other one? Patterson does rear end work at Briscoe Brothers Body Shop.
Well, you know the guy who exposed him, don't you? The guy who brought Patterson out, number one loser in the company, Barry Horowitz. He said, "I'm tired of him touching me before every match," and he said it on national television.
Huh.
And soon after he left. My favorite McMahon moment was the time that two wrestlers cracked him up. He was interviewing the Valiant brothers, and Vince said, "You really haven't wrestled anybody because the Blackjacks weren't in yet. Tony Gurria and Dean Holm weren't in it." And he said, so Jimmy Valiant says, "We are so popular right now. You couldn't be a Valiant sister, McMahon." And he couldn't talk the rest of the interview. He just cracked him up.
He couldn't hold it together.
The Valiants owned the company. They were that popular.
Huh.
And I never saw Vince ever crack up. And I don't know if there was some kind of side joke that maybe he was going out with a member of the Valiants. I don't know what was going on, but Vince he cracked up and the mic dropped on the ground, and they went to commercial.
They went to commercial. So, interesting. Now there's one I didn't know about. I was used to.
That must have been some kind of inside joke. Somebody said that Jimmy Valiant has more stuff on more people than anybody in the business.
Huh.
I said, I believe it now.
Yeah.
Take care, buddy.
All right. Thanks so much for the call, Steve. Greatly appreciate it. You never know what kind of tidbits of knowledge you're going to get. And I never claim to be the one to always supply them. Sometimes you get a few other folks to throw a few things out there. All right. Let's take care of our second bit of business. We'll come back. I'll go through the rest of my favorite moments and whatnot. We've got some more news and notes. We'll talk a little bit of actually Yeah, we'll get to Impact on the other side as well, and an odd turn of events courtesy of AJ Styles. We'll get into all that and more, plus a litany of Facebook feedback on a bunch of different topics. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.